How's it going, YouTube? Smith Mac here. That's my best Pat Mac impression. Check out the game room, which is why we're here today, actually. We're bringing you our Tag Team Season 2 Power Rankings. We haven't had this league for quite a while now, and it's very easily become a fan favorite over at the game room. And join with me, I have two lovely co-hosts, members of the mod team. I have Ped here. Say hello.
Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel.
And I have Doc Duck. Say hello as well.
How's it going, everyone? You got Doc Duck here, coach of not the Sacramento Sandslash. I'd say I have the better Pat Mac impression.
Well, we're here to bring you a nice, somewhat short but different form of power rankings. Instead of ranking the teams just 1 through 28, because there are 28 individual drafts, 14 pairs, we decided to put a little bit of a spin on it. So we're going to be talking about the teams, yes, but we also have a segment at the end where we ask the community to anonymously answer 3 questions about their fellow draft mates. With that being said, we are going to dive into our Tag Team Season 2 Power Rankings, sponsored by Ogrepon and the Teal Mask DLC. Alright, so we're going to start with the first team.
Proudly presented and unpaid for by the Pokemon Company.
Yes, sir. So before I do get started with the first team, all of the teams are in draft order. So this is the order in which they were allowed to make picks. So this is not a subtle like first to like 14th order or anything like that, just to get that cleared up. I say this because, lucky me, my team happened to be the first in the draft order. So the way this works in the general sense is each coach is split into a Minun pool or a Puzzle pool. They have the 6 Pokemon on their respective sides in the blue and the red areas. Those Pokemon are only for them to use. They may not use any Pokemon from the opposing side. In the middle, in the yellow area, you have 4 shared Pokemon. Either coach can use any or all of those shared Pokemon from a week-to-week basis. So you will also notice that there is one more element. There are Terra Captains, so Terrestrialization being the new mechanic around the block in Generation 9. We have limited it to 2 shared Pokemon, which you'll see in the yellow zone, and 1 individual captain on each side of the draft. So for the Minun coach, they have the one in the top left, and for the Puzzle coach, they have the one in the top right. But since this is my team, why don't my co-hosts talk about what they think of this draft?
A couple more things. First of all, thank you to Brave, of course, for making our wonderful graphics over here at the game room. We love him. And in case it's not obvious, Terra Captains can terrestrialize into the 2 types you see next to them, and only those 2 types, and no other Pokemon can terrestrialize.
Alright,
but without further ado, let's talk about this team. So, right off the bat, I absolutely love Dragonite. Super fun Pokemon to use, whether you Scarf it, Band it, Dragon Dance. You could go with a more defensive set if you wanted to. Terra Normal, pretty obvious. I'm not the biggest fan of the Terra Fire. You could use it offensively. I feel like you might want to have like a more defensive Terra there, and Fire is definitely not that, at least for Dragonite. But I can see where it's coming from. I do not like Toxapex. As a competitive player, I do not like Toxapex. I do not like using it. I do not like playing against it. If I see Toxapex, I'm not happy. And I think I'm not the only person who has that opinion. Back me up on this, guys. Back me up on this.
I'm gonna refrain from saying anything about Toxapex.
Oh, that's why you were so quiet. But Rotom, I love all of the Rotoms. All the Rotoms are great. And then Persian, I assume, was what, like 2 points?
That's correct. Persian was 2 points.
Yeah. So, as a nice little low tier, it's fast, it can do some damage, but it might come like twice.
Okay.
I do like the shared pool of Pokemon. I do like the shared pool of Pokemon, Toxapex excluded. Ted, do you have anything else to say about, or do you want to get on with the individual?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about a little bit both sides. I honestly like the Paradox Pokemon on each side. Fluttermane is super strong. Paired up with the Pincurchin, although it doesn't get the Cork Drive and stuff like that, like its fellow Paradox Pokemon, Iron Treads. Still really strong. You can slap on the Specs, Life Orb, Focus Sash if you really need to live one hit. Overall, really strong utility Pokemon as well. Has good status move pools, Strict Room, Prison, stuff like that. So, really strong building piece on the plus side. On the minus side, I really like Iron Valiant on that team. Um, just like overall the support next to it, like with the Sinistra, Machigacha is really good to potentially get those burns and allow Iron Valiant to, survive those physical attacks, which is pretty much physically frail. I kind of like that support there, and like the Terra types, Steel and Dark, really strong defensive typing. Obviously, Steel, you're not going to take a super effective damage from a Fairy type move, and then in Dark you can hit those Ghost types. Otherwise, would wall you if you're not running like not a Dark move or like knockoff or Terra Blast Dark. So really strong. Yeah, it gets knockoff. But yeah, overall really strong both sides. I like the supporting pieces. It's going to be interesting to see what both coaches do during the season.
Yeah, I will just quickly point out that Mabosstiff is going to be super, super good for this team. Just having something to just wait intimidate, because this team is not going to like getting... Dragonite's not going to like intimidate, Violent's not going to like intimidate. Sliggoo could run physical, so that's not Sliggoo. Gudra could be physical, so that's not going to like intimidate. So I think that the guard dog is going to be very, very useful there on that Mabosstiff.
I thank you, gents, for your commentary about our squad. I won't give away too much because, spoilers, I actually faced Ted week 1, and I don't need to be giving him all of the strategy that I plan to bring against him. But I will just say that this draft was tricky just because there are so many Pokemon leaving the table at once. Like, every coach got to draft for themselves one Pokemon apiece to start, so that's 2 Pokemon leaving the table every turn. But I'm really happy with how my draft turned out. I am actually on the Plusle side this time around. Last season I was actually a minor coach, but I'm on the Plusle side. I'm excited to try out Fluttermane in draft. I have spoken ill of it for many leagues so far because I think it is horrendously overpriced. But I feel like it could find a nice home in a league that has limited Terra options. Also going to shout out my low tier water pick in Palooza. That mon is surprisingly very good, and I really am excited to use it. As far as my partner is concerned, I think she definitely got the better of the 2 drafts, being that she has like 2 pseudo legendaries on her whole team, and Iron Valiant, and Sinistra. Like, she just has a very bulky, hard to kill
Iron Valiant
kind of
isn't a pseudo legendary?
No, but she has Hisuian. She has Hisuian, Gudra, and she has the shared Dragonite, which are both pseudo legendaries. So she has access to the 2. But yes, and a Paradox Mon. She has a lot of tools at her disposal, and I'm really excited to see what she does with it. As far as the shared picks, just to kind of wrap it up and move on to the next team, I would say the shared picks are really nice for our team. Like, they all do different roles, and they all give the other coach something that we don't have in our original, in our individual drafts. But with that being said, let's move on to team number 2, and that's going to be the Chillin' Boys.
Next season.
So
next season we'll have the Munich Household.
Okay, we're gonna move on to the Chilling Boys, which is gonna be our next team. Ted, can you take it away?
Yeah. Going to the Terra Captains, I am a big fan of Terra Carbink. I have it in the Masters division right now. You guys check out that content in the server. But I really like the Terra typing. It's really good defensive Terra. Landorus, Terra Flying is really common on it right now in the competitive format. So having good flying stab option with Terra Blast Flying is really good, and Water overall is really good defensive typing as well. Glimora and Vaporeon are interesting shared picks. Even though they can't Terra, I think they're both good defensively. Glimora having like corrosion and getting up those toxic spikes with its ability, with its other ability is really nice as well. And then Vaporeon provides that bulky water type option. Otherwise, you wouldn't have if you didn't want to terrestrialize the Landorus into water typing. So I think those two picks are really strong. For the plus side, I'm terrified. I don't. I have to face this team. Well, no, I don't have to face this team, but I do have to face an Ogrepon later down the line. But Ogrepon is really, really strong. I believe this is the teal masked variant with the water and fire typing for Terra typing. So both really good options that can cover its weaknesses a bit. Kids can hit really strong as well with Ivy Cudgel. And has really good supporting sets like with Trailblaze and Swords Dance for itself, so you can boost and go bonkers with it. And like the rest of the team supports it really well. Like Dragapult provides screens, fast screens, can hit really hard with Shadow Ball, Draco Meteor, or it can go on the physical side with Dragon Darts. Murkrow is really strong as well for the priority tailwind with Prankster, which is his main role, I assume, on this team. And then Gardevoir, Thwackey, and the Piloswine are really good, strong support. Fake Out is really nice for Thwackey. Gardevoir, are much needed good fairy type on this team. Next to the Dragapult is really nice as well. And then Piloswine is an interesting pick. It's really strong with the Eviolite defensively. Can do a few niche things. Can have priority with Ice Shard. Can hit hard with Ice Cliff Crash and stuff like that. So I really like the plus side.
Doug?
So I guess I will take over the Mine side, or Miss Mag, do you want to say something?
No, I'm passing it to you, Doc.
Okay. So the Mine side, I really like it. It's a very bulky team with the Heatran, the Landorus, the Mienshao even is quite bulky with Regenerator, and of course Glimora and Vaporeon. And I really like it. I could definitely see some Earthquake spamming going on with Landorus and Fletchinder, that's its name, and Rotom. I think it's Fletchinder, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This team, I think, is going to be very tough to break through. But that does not necessarily make it a stall team. It does have some great offensive threats. Heatran can do a hell of a lot of damage if you wanted to. Mienshao can do a lot of damage. Clefable can set up if you wanted to. Rotom, as somebody who's used base form Rotom before, is super fun to use, very fast, quite good. It can be strong, it can be defensive, it can basically do whatever you want. Landorus can again do whatever you want. You want it to be offensive, you can do that. You want it to be defensive, you can do that. And if you just want intimidate support, it can do that. So I really, really like the Mine inside. Very bulky, but also quite strong offensively, and I think that team, if it is wielded well, can go quite far.
Well, thank you guys. I will kind of wrap it up and say I actually really like this team. I think my favorite part of this team is actually the shared mons. I've personally had a lot of success with Vaporeon this generation, and since there are pretty dominant water weaknesses on both sides of this team, like with the Heatran and the Fire Ogrepon and the Piloswine, I think the Vaporeon is a very nice glue pick that they can, and just Landorus in general. Oh, and Carbane. Yeah, there's a lot of water weaknesses on this team, and I think
and Glimora.
And Glimora. Well, there you
and
go.
Fletchling.
Well, yes, and Fletchinder. But I think the Vaporeon is a very good glue pick. Like, it can very comfortably come every single week and provide a lot of support for the team. As far as offense is concerned, I don't think they need any help in this department. Both coaches are very ably to hit on both sides of the spectrum, physical and special, for a lot of damage. So Can't wait to see what they do. All right, on to the next team, which is going to be the Real Paradox. I'm gonna let Doc talk about this team to start.
I believe this is Pat Mac and Ted's team, or the Matrix and Ted.
No, this is actually Fayak
Fayak
and Mario.
and Mario. Yeah.
I knew it was a mods team. Okay. I guess we'll start with the shared mods as always. Iron Moth is a Pokemon that I've used before. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. It hits hard. It hits really hard. But it also gets hit quite hard, and I don't particularly like it. It's a good Pokemon, don't get me wrong, just not my playstyle, but Tropius, that's not a Pokemon you see very often. What does Tropius do?
Tailwind,
Like-
Harvest, kind of does a little bit
I
of
guess-
everything, really.
Okay, yeah, so yeah, I could see. Yeah, Tailwind, okay. Haunter, why did I say it like that? Haunter is a very, very fun Pokemon, and Ninetales, you can already see the Hail synergies coming in from both sides without Alolan Sandslash and the Titan on the Minun and Plusle sides, respectively. I'm gonna go talk about the Minun side here. There is the little Hail synergy with the Sandslash and the Ninetales. And I'm not the biggest fan of weather teams, and if I do them, I'll do rain. But I think this could work quite well. You do, if you really need to, you do have Cloud9 Golduck, but I don't think that'll be coming very often. Maybe Golduck, but not Cloud9. It is interesting that you have Iron Moth and Slitherwing having both the Volcarona forms. Tyranitar Paradox. What's its name? Iron. What?
Or Iron Thorns. There you go.
Iron Thorns. Yes, that's it. Iron Thorns, very, very good offensive Pokemon. This team. I know. It looks good on paper, but something feels missing from it, and I cannot place my finger on it. Don't know what it is or why I feel it, but I feel like something's missing, and if one of you could tell me what it is, that would be great.
Ted, why don't you jump in?
So since Doc covered the minus side, I'll obviously go to the plus side. Iron Hand's really strong individual Pokemon, provides that fake out support. We can see the standard Assault Vest set, where it can run Life Orb, or it can run Booster Energy. To boost its defense. Yeah, or Belly Drum set. And Booster allows it to boost either its defense or attack stat, depending on which side you want to favor in the matches. Sea Titan, really good Terra Captain. I like Water and Poison defensively. Water covers a lot of its weaknesses, like being weak to Fire and Steel. It resists those typings, so really good with that. And then Poison allows it to resist those fighting type moves as well. So overall, I really like those typings there for the set for the Sea Titan. Milotic, really strong, bulky water type. I am a big fan of it. I like its defensive stats. It now has access to Scald, so it can burn stuff. Has really good abilities in competitive and Marvel scale. So either or can come depending on the matchup. And its supporting move pool is great as well. It can run like Hypnosis, Coil, stuff like that. So overall, really good Pokemon. Spiritomb, Azelf, and the Scyther. I like Spiritomb for Trick Room, especially with the Iron Hands or like a slow Sea Titan without Hail. Will be nice as well. So looking forward to see that with that. And Azelf, really fast Pokemon, can hit hard with his high special attack. Now has a mystical power which boosts the special attack stat stage by 1. Overall, really good Pokemon, can be either physical or special. And its move pool is really, really fast. So it just depends on the matchup there. And then Scyther, I'm not a huge fan of it. Yes, it has Tailwind, but you already are covered with Tailwind with the Tropius.
On
And if you really need to bring it, I think Technician is going to be nice with like Aerial Ace, Fury Attack, stuff like that. So again, it can come in those certain matchups, but you won't be seeing it every time.
Honestly, I do think Scyther has a role as a nice little fast cleanup hitter on a strong Trick Room team, which I think this team definitely has the potential to be. So
I'll kind of just wrap up by talking about the team as a whole. Um, one of the biggest things that I see when I look at this team, I see bulk. Lots of it. Lots of bulk. A lot of Pokemon on the Fossil side, the Iron Hands, the Titan, which is the Terra Captain, the Milotic. They all have HP stats that are at over 100 or at least close enough to it. And then you have the Alolan Ninetales as a shared mon that sets Aurora Veil, which further boosts the defensive strength of all of these Pokemon. I think this team is going to be incredibly difficult to break through if it is given the opportunity to set up. That is a for sure fact that I would say right now. I will also point out that my favorite picks on both sides of the team is I'm really happy with the Azelf pick for the Fossil coach, and I'm going to tell you why. At the time, I believe they had the choice of 3 Lake Spirits, and I think if he had chosen a less offensive one to go with the rest of his draft, it actually would have made his overall damage output for immediate offense a lot weaker. So I think the Azelf is right at home on that team with a bunch of bulky attackers that can clean up whatever nonsense it decides to throw at the opponent. Choice Band Explosion, Specs Mystical Power, Specs Dazzling Gleam. Okay, cool, it dies. Now I just bring out the Iron Hands and we just clean up the whole game. Like, you're not killing Iron Hands in one hit like you can kill in Azelf. And then similarly on the Minun side, I like the Golduck for the counterplay to opposing weather. If you just don't feel like bringing your snow abuser, just deny them with weather, and you can freely pivot in and set your own Veil anyway, and then bring in the Golduck, and it's like, well, Veil just has to be up when snow is up. It doesn't say it has to stay up just because snow goes down. You feel me? So I think those are solid picks by both coaches, so shout out to them. But we are going to move on to the next team, which is the Vatican Bloodsires. And for this one, we're going to start with Ted.
Okay, first off, let's shout out the logo. I think that logo is really cool.
Yes,
so
sir.
Really good photoshopping there.
Yes,
that sure is a logo.
Yeah. So as usual, we start off with the Terra Captains and the shared Pokemon. So Moltres, I really like the Terra's Grass and Ground is really good. Ground obviously covers its weakness to Electric, and then
Right.
Grass covers the other weaknesses that it has, especially like to Water, and even to Electric as well to an extent there. So overall, really good typings with that. And then Bronzong, Fire and Fighting. Fire typing covers obviously its weakness to fire without running heat proof if you really need levitate. And then Fighting obviously boosts up its offense with body press, iron press sets. So I think overall both of those typings are really good for it. Weezing, really good defensive Pokemon. Obviously, you can turn off the abilities depending on the matchup. Obviously, now on both sides, some of the Pokemon's abilities don't really want to be turned off, but if you really need it in a critical situation, then I think Neutralizing Gas will be great. And then Trevenant, I think, is really good for Trick Room potential. Has a good recover in Horn Leech. Has Poltergeist as well. So really good strong stab options there with the Trick Room potential in Trevenant. For the puzzle side, I really like the Trick Room mode with the Grumpig Hariyama next to Trevenant as well. I think that Trick Room core can definitely shine. But the fast mode is really strong as well, like Noiver next to Chempao set up the Tailwind if we really need to outspeed Scarfers. And just hit hard with like a Crunch, Icicle Crash, Ice Spinner is really good. And then Basically why is an interesting pick as a Terra Captain. I wouldn't really consider it being a Terra Captain, but I think it's really good on this squad. Obviously, Grass covers its electric weakness and its grass weakness, and then Water boosts up its offensive potential with with Wave Crash and Aqua Jet. So really good typings for Basculin. And then Fur is that support glue piece, has Follow Me now, and also gets Tidy Up as well for boosting up its offenses, which is pretty abysmal anyway, so you wouldn't see that, but it's there, it has it. But yeah, like I said, like the main supporting piece is that Fur with Follow Me, allowing it to it allows the Grumpig to set up Trick Room for the other two slow Pokemon on the squad.
Yeah. So for Zamine inside, I can see this team being extremely annoying. Spamming screens and Thunderwave, Prankster, Salt Cure, have Thunderwave, Charm, Electro, Pikachu. I can see this team being very annoying and difficult to navigate around. And just forcing switches a lot and letting your Crawdont and your Venomoth and even Regality Chain kind of just set up while the Pokemon next to it just forces switches. And I think that strategy, wielded correctly against the right team, can work very well. But even outside of that, I think it's a very strong team. Even if you're just using the Grimmsnarl for just screens or for a bulk upset next to a what's the name of the move? It's a setup move, the bug type setup move.
River Dance.
Yeah, Quiver Dance, Venomoth. You can just set up. The only thing that I think this team would really benefit from is some form of redirection. Follow Me or something like that, I think would really benefit this team to let this set up Pokemon set up. But other than that, I think it's a really strong team that can definitely be annoying to go up against.
Well, how dare you forget that Venomoth gets Rage Powder, so they have the setup move that you've just claimed they don't have.
I meant outside of the setup Pokemon.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to jump in. I actually think that Venomoth is probably like my favorite Pokemon on that side, and I'm actually really upset because I was going to draft it myself. It is such a steal in the low tiers, honestly, with setup, Rage Powder, and very accurate Sleep Powders. It is such a good
as well.
Yeah, and it gets Tailwind. It is a good mod, and I do think that they don't really need any other sort of redirectors. I think Venomoth's role on that team will mostly be spamming Rage Powder and disrupting the opponents, because the Crawdont and the Dragology and even the Grimmsnarl hit plenty hard, and that's not even counting any of the shared mons that they do bring into the fray.
And the Light Ball Pikachu.
Yes, and the Light Ball Pikachu. One thing I will say about this team's shared mons, they are very unique in what they offer. In a lot of ways, even though, like, Bronzong, yeah, you get your typical Iron Defense, Body Press, Trick Room stuff. Moltres can set up Tailwind and hit very flexibly on both sides of the offenses. And Weezing and Trevenant kind of do disruption and bulky offense in their own unique ways. Also, don't forget that the Galarian Weezing, which is shown below, does get Misty Surge, so it can set up Misty Terrain, which opens seed options for some extra special defense bulk and prevents the grounded mons from getting status very badly. So I like the diversity in their shared mons in terms of like what they can do. I think they are probably my favorite parts of this team outside of the Venomoth. On the Plusle side, I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but I love Grumpig. Grumpig's another one of those low tier steel mons. Like, it's just wide move pool, pretty good stat line, great abilities. Like, it can do a lot in the right matchup. So shout out to these coaches of the Vatican Cloudsires for finding, I think, some of the better value picks on this tier list. But with that being said, let's move on to next team, Primordial Leviathan. And I think I'll just start this one off. I wanted to draft a Suid Arcanine. Darn you for getting to it first. Sad. Tinkaton is great. I also think Urshifu Rapid Strike, which is the water one on the Minun side, is also really solid. And I also wanted to draft Yanmega. So this is another case of, like, I think these coaches also got some good value from the low tiers, but I do find their Terra Captains just a little bit on the confusing side. Like, I see the Garchomp and the Lycanroc, and my only question is, where's the Sandstorm mode? Like, I feel like I need to be fully enriched with a real Sand mode to kind of get the most value out of those two mons. You feel me?
And just use manual Sandstorm as Riolu.
Well, that would be nice if Riolu got Sandstorm. I don't believe it does, actually.
I don't think it does either.
No.
That would be funny.
I think it just gets Rain Dance Sunny Day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does it get Rain Dance and Sunny Day?
Because reasons. But yeah, no, I do think that maybe potentially looking into a Sand Setter may enrich this team just a little bit more. I don't know where they would fit it because, you know, the Sand Setters are moderately expensive. Although, you know, there's some cheaper ones in the low tiers. But I think I've said enough. I'm gonna turn it over to Ted. What do you think of this team?
Yeah, it's more the same as your opinion, Mizmag. Like, the Terra Captains, I don't really like. I get the reason behind the Terra types, and I get why they kind of gel on both sides for the teams, but I would really like to see a Sand mode with this. Potentially getting something above the higher tiers, like you said, to set up the Sand. And if you don't really want to, then I guess, you know, manual Sand setup is fine as well, but is not guaranteed to get it up immediately. So
I mean,
yeah, there's that.
you could have at least taken like a Hippopotas.
Yeah, so yeah, something like that. But yeah, for the other two shared Pokemon like Amoonguss and Flareon, I think Amoonguss is really good. Obviously, for a gel Pokemon, you know, provide that support with Rage Powder, Spore, Clear Smog, Pollen Puff. Really good for moves on, and it can also run that as a set as well. And then Flareon, I think, although it would most likely benefit more from Terra, I think is a really good Fire type Pokemon. The plus side already has Arcanine, but I think on the minus side, I think it'll benefit a little bit more having a Fire type there outside of Terra Fire Garchomp. So I like those two picks. Going over to the minus side, their team is relatively fast. I don't really see much them going trigger mode with like Weird Air. I think we'll definitely see more of a faster mode. Fake out pressure from the Tinkaton is nice. Gigaton Hammer player off really strong stab options. Gengar provides that support as well. You know, Icy Wind, Sludge Bomb, Shadow Ball, really hard hitting there with specs. Run Scarf if you really need to outspeed something, or Focus Sash set. Overall, really good support piece there with that, and offensive piece. Urshifu Rapid Strike, really good, hits hard. Choice Banded or Scarf sets are really good on it. Obviously, Surgeon Strike is really good. Getting those critical hits each time is really nice. Close Combat is also another good, strong step option. And his move pool is generally really good. You know, U-turn, Poison Jab, Thunder Punch, Ice Punch. You know, really good move pool for it to use there. And then Jolteon as an individual Terra Captain is nice. I believe that's Ice. Ice can hit those ground types, which ordinarily would wall it, essentially. And Electric is a really good stab option as well. So, yeah, overall, really good. Really good. I really like the side for Minun.
Well, alright, I think Doc Duck had to leave us for a bit, so we're going to take that and move on to the next team, which is the Let's Go Goats. This is actually coached by Pat Mac and Brave, so yes, this is their team finally. I guess I'll start. I'll start with the things that I really like about this team. I've always been a fan of trying to make pledge work in draft, so to make the pledge moves work, you have to specifically draft a water starter, a fire starter, and a grass starter to have, you know, access to all of them. And the pledge moves work that if you combine a water and a fire pledge, or a fire and a grass pledge, you get a very super powerful move that has an added effect. They are very difficult to pull off because not only do they require you to draft a specific Pokemon, but they also require you to field them and not get disrupted. So you only get one attack off for the turn, but that attack is like base 150 power. But with 2 of the starter Pokemon as shared mods and each coach having a grass starter, come on, man. Like, this literally, like, Pledge is definitely going to happen at some point during this season. So I'm like really excited to see that. And independent of that mode, I think they rounded out their teams very nicely. I'm a big fan of the Braviary Hisui. Really excited to see what that mon can do. And I also think Electrode as a Terra Captain is, again, another low tier kind of steel mon. Steel, but steel indeed. Ted, what do you think?
So going to the shared Terra Captains, both Excalibur and Magnezone were both on my list of Pokemon that I wanted to pick. It just never happened, so I'm glad they both found a home here. I think Excalibur is really strong. Although electric typing doesn't, the ice typing already covers the flying type there with that, so I feel like electric is kind of unneeded, but I get the reason behind it. And then water is overall really good defensively. So yeah, there's that. And then Magazone flying, obviously, you're not weak to ground anymore, and you can hit those grass types that would otherwise wall it completely. And then fighting is really good for body press sets, iron press. So again, similar role as Bronzong, but it was definitely going to be good with that Terra fighting. I'm just going to go over a little bit both sides. I like Rillaboom and Decidueye on both teams, like you said. Like the pledge stuff is going to be interesting to see, and if they actually get it off as well. So yeah, excited to see that. I like both fairy types, honestly. I'm a big fan of Namorous. I've been trying to get this thing to work. I haven't been able to get it yet, but I know I'm close getting a Namorous to work this gen, even though the Daring form is only slightly better than the Incarnate form. But I really like it on the Plusos teams. And then Sylveon is a really strong hard hitter with Pixelate, Hyper Voice, Moonblast, Terra Blast. So yeah, overall really good fairy types on both sides. And then like the final 3 Pokemon, like they're kind of serve similar roles. I like the what should we call it? The evolution to Strudel. I forgot the name. If you could remind me, Miss Mag.
Grafire.
Yeah, Grafai. I really like him on this team. Although Doodle is not going to be coming, because you really do want to keep your abilities here. I think I have a good niche here. Knock off, parting shot, encore, super fang, really good utility moves. So looking forward to see that. Palace Land, I don't quite get it because there's not much of a trick room unless I don't think Very Hisui gets trick room, but I don't see it coming. But water compaction is really good. Getting that boost from those water type attacks you hit yourself with. So yeah, that's good. And then I forgot this Pokemon's name. I forgot the name, but
which one?
The final one on mine inside.
Morpeko.
Yeah, Morpeko. I gotta remember these names. Morpeko is really good. Her fake out option, low tier fake out option is really nice. Aura Wheel to boost its speed. Also changes its forms between the electric and the dark form. So that I think that's really good for a low tier start. And then Decidueye, Slowking, and the Skunk Tank, I think all those 3 provide good utility options. Obviously, Decidueye is for the pledge moves, gets Tailwind as well as if you really need it. If you don't really want to run it on the Namorous, so it's good with that. Slowking, good pivot option with the Shelly Reception, so you can get back the regenerator health and obviously set up other Pokemon with it. And then Skunk Tank, I don't really like another poison type on the team, but the dark type option is really nice. Sucker Punch, Crunch, Poison Jab, really strong hitter. So overall, for a low tier option, is really good.
Yeah, I can be honest that I was one of those people that is not super high on the Enamorous form that the Fossil side has, the Incarnate form. I have personally been a little under impressed. been a little unimpressed by it. I have found it to be underwhelming, as have a few people that I have known have used it, but I am excited to see what the puzzle coach Brave will end up doing with it, especially with that very speedy electrode throwing stat drops into it to boost its stats with contrary, which flips stat drops to be stat buffs and vice versa. But with that being said, I'm gonna let us move on to the something shiny team. And yeah, tell me what you think about this team.
So the Terra Captains are really interesting as well. Earthstring with that Ghost and normal typing is really strong. Ghost obviously covers the fighting weakness, which is his only weakness. Is really good there. And normal typing is to boost that facade, body slam, stuff like that. So I get those typings with Earthring. Volcarona, really strong utility Pokemon, has Rage Powder, Tailwind, can do a lot of good strong hitting with Quiver Dance. So and the water typing and the grass typing are really good defensively. Obviously, you know, with grass type you're still weak to the flying, but you're no longer weak to water, so that's really good with that. And then water, obviously, always good defensive typing on any Pokemon essentially. So yeah, I like those typings. And then for Giraffe and Electros, I think those are really honestly good lower tier pickup options because having that essentially both Trick Room pairs is really nice. So yeah, I'm excited to see what happens with that with those two. I guess I'll go over to the mining side. Goltris, really big fan of it. I think it hits really hard. The speed is a little bit underwhelming at base 90, but you can face that with Tailwind. Obviously, the typings is really strong as well. Fairy, really good defensively. No longer weak to Fairy typing, and then the Steel typing also covers that same option, no longer being weak to Fairy as well. Salamence, again, going back to the Tailwind stuff, between Goltras and Salamence, both can run Tailwind if needed, if they need to be really fast. Quaquaval is basically a self self set up Pokemon. Having Aqua Step and Moxie is really nice if you can get it in the right situation. Obviously, close combat is really good for stab. Ice Spinner to hit those flying types. It can also run Detect as well, or Protect to stop a turn from being KO'd. Copperage are really good for the Trick Room mode. Same thing with Camerupt. Both pair up really well with the Giraffe. And then Oriko Sensu, I believe, is at the Ghost typing form. Really good pair up next to Volcarona, so you can get a Quiver Dance, and just with the Dancer ability, boost yourself as well with that. And it also gets Quiver Dance this generation as well, so if you don't want to rely on Dancer too much, you can just run a Quiver Dance set and get those boosts, which is really nice. So overall, I really like the mining side.
Great. Can definitely agree with a lot of that. I will say that I had the Electros down there on my team in season 1 of this league. That mon puts in the work for literally adding no weaknesses to your team because it is an electric type that has Levitate, so has an immunity to its only ground move. Makes it a perfect shared mon to have in a format where there are limited para options. And of course, it has very flexible offenses, pretty wide move pool. Mon's great. I think that's a great pick for both of these coaches. As you said, there is all that Dancing synergy on the left side, which I also very much enjoy. I think the Oricorio Sensu was a great pickup. I forgot what was actually there before, but whatever it was, I believe they said their teammate on the Plusle side was the one that suggested it. Great choice. I do like the other 3 shared mons. You basically have a setup Trick Room 4 and Sweepers with literally just those 4 mons that you can bring every week. And then if you go to the Plusle side, I like what they've done with kind of like storing up their sort of setup options, but they also picked up the Overpawn base form, so they get to use an item. It's just a pure grass one as an additional redirector. But then it's like, you have all this like setup. You have like bulk up on the Aqua Tauros. You have Lucario, which can set up Swords Dance or a Nasty Plot. Darkspun's probably going to be more of just like a support role. There's no Lava Plume sort of text over there, so when there's none from the shared pool, so it'll probably just rely on some of its other abilities and just being kind of bulky. And then Alolan Golem can do some really funny shenanigans with its special ability, Galvanize, which turns normal moves into the electric type. But I won't give up too much about those kind of fun strats over there. And then, of course, Articuno's probably like the best, statistically the best low tier mon we had in the whole draft. It's like, what, almost 600 BST worth of stats for like 1 point? Like, crazy. Super crazy. And I love it. Articuno is my favorite of the legendary trio. But yeah, with that being said, let's move on to Mario Bros. Why don't you start us off again, Ted?
Okay. So starting off with the shared picks, Magneton, I'm not a big fan of it being a Terra Captain. I can definitely see the typings being good. Like flying is really good again to cover that ground weakness, and then Fairy is a good defensive option with Terra Blast Fairy and stuff like that. And then the Cleavor with what is that Steel Fighting. Steel, obviously, you cover that flying weakness, so you're no longer weak to flying. And obviously the rock stab is nice against those. And then fighting, obviously, you can boost up your fighting type stat with close combat, break, stuff like that. So I get the meaning behind those Terra types. And then Cinderace and Zoroark. I was a big fan of Zoroark actually last season. For a tag team, I think is really useful. I think it's slightly better with Terra, but I think Illusion is really a really good ability to play with on both sides. So excited to see that. And then Cinderace, really strong fire type starter. Excited to see what it does. I've had good success with it, so yeah, looking forward to see that.
Okay, I can definitely agree. The Mouse Soul Annihilate combo on the Minun side, I hate facing Mouse Ape. I will continue to preach that to whoever will listen. I don't like facing that combo. I am glad I have a Fossil Ghost this time around. Let's just put it that way. But it's a strong combo, and it deserves a lot of respect in prep. And the Minun coach has shored it up quite nicely, even throwing in little bits of tech like the Tornadus for some very good speed control, the Diplin to make some of those population bombs a little bit more accurate with the super sticky, super sweet stirrup ability that lowers evasion. And then just like Arbok's just a solid kind of low tier support, Intimidate, Glare, lots of cool tools down there. And it doesn't share any weaknesses with any of the other mons specifically on the Minun side. Now, you remember a few moments ago, Ted, you said Magnezone was on your list of mons you wanted to draft, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna just assume that these guys also had that same list, and if I recall correctly, the Magnezone pick actually went very shortly before it got to both you and this team, so I think they just simply opted to take Magneton instead, really, from the low tiers. But I do agree with you, it's not, I don't think it's like the greatest substitute, but when you look at both drafts really needing a steel type at that point in the draft, I think you kind of have to just take whatever you can get, you feel me?
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Definitely big up agreeing with you on the Zoroark pick. I actually think Zoroark is terrifying, especially if it's disguised as certain mons like Annihilate, Mousehold, or even Sableye. God help us all. Speaking of Sableye, let's go over to the Fossil side. Fossil side's got Walking Wake and Glared Articuno and Sableye. That's enough to make a really obnoxious Sunroom team just right there. And Walking Wake hits like a truck. Like, really, really strong truck, especially with Sun and Specs. It's gonna be madness. Big fan of the Torterra pick. I think Torterra with Terra is Torterra with Terra. I think Torterra with Terra is actually really kind of underrated and underexplored right now. So I'll be really excited to see what they decide to do with it. Any final thoughts?
With the Torterra pick, I would probably like to see another typing other than ground. I get the reason behind it because like you do want that stab. In addition with getting the Terra boost with ground like next to like Earthquake or high horsepower and stuff like that. But I think another typing like they should probably consider is probably either rock or electric. Obviously both cover that flying weakness that it has too. So it can hit those flying types if needed to be, and Terra Rock obviously boosts that not Terra Rock, but the Rock Blast set that it likes to run in both formats. Obviously, is really nice. So that's probably something I would consider. But I get the reason behind Terra Ground.
I can get behind the Terra Electric, honestly, especially when like your other source of electric sort of coverage is the shared Magneton, which I mean at least it kind of gives you a little bit more leeway in terms of being able to hit those flying mons. Which there's also Toxicroak on this Plusle team, which is also weak to flying, and that one can't terrestrialize, so a little bit more hate towards flying the better. So I can see that. Good shout. Alright, next up is going to be the Greenwich Galarians, and before we begin to talk about their team, we are going to shout out the coaches, Camo Dude and Dominic, who are the current reigning champions. They won Season 1, and they are back to try to take another crown. With that being said, Ted, why don't you start us off? Oh, one other thing, because I realized I forgot to put in the Terra types for the Puzzle Sides captain. They are Fire and Dark. Apologies for that. Take it away, Ted.
So the Avalugg and the Persian are really good. Obviously the Terra typings with Ghost and Poison is really good for the fighting type option. Again, like you're not taking super effective damage from that. And then Avalugg with Fire and Flying, I believe, is that. So flying, you can hit those flying type, or not flying, those fighting types that are doing super effective to Avalugg. And then Fire, obviously another good defense typing as well. Zoroark is Sui, and the Quillfish, I believe that's also Sui, Quillfish. Obviously Illusion, again, like the previous team can take advantage of that. And then the Quillfish with Intimidate is really nice as well. With the Plusle, Goldango and I don't see the Terra typings on Urshifu, but they'll be fixed later. But with the Terra types, I believe is Dark and Fire on the Urshifu. Obviously, Dark boosts up its Dark type stab, and then Fire typing, I think in general is great. Not defensively, but offensively is really nice. And then Goldango, obviously a hard hitting special attacker with Ghost and Steel. Make It Rain is really nice spammable move. And then like setting up with like Nasty Blast, Shadow Ball, stuff like that is really nice as well. And then Talonflame covers the speed control with Tailwind, and then having a nice synergy with Bramble Gas is nice as well to boost up Wind Rider with his its attack and speed at the same time, which is really nice. And then Gothorita and the Cloister is really nice, having Fake Out to disrupt, and then Shadow Tag is really nice in this format where you have a Bramble Gas on your side, so you can switch it out whenever you don't want that. And then Cloister having really good Shell Smash set. You probably won't see it because it's not the same as I feel like Torterra and other Shell Smash users, since it's really frail. But if you can get it off, it's definitely going to hit really, really hard with Icicle Spear and Razor Shell. And I believe it still gets Rock Blast. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it still gets Rock Blast.
It does.
So it can hit those. What?
It does. It does still get Rock Blast.
Okay, so yeah, another way of hitting flying types. So again, really strong low tier options. I like the top tier threats in Talonflame and Goldango and Urshifu. So yeah, excited to see what they do.
I guess I'll jump in to talk about this team. Let's start with the things that I like. I think both Minun and Plusle picked phenomenally strong Pokemon as some of their top tiers. Like, Kilowattrel Great Tusk is such a great Disquake mode that can offer so much offensive pressure up front, and the Kilowattrel's Terra types being Electric for some boosted damage, or Ghost to basically ignore Fake Out without necessarily having to use up its item slot for Covert Cloak, I think was a great choice. Granted, there is the Bruxish, which has Dazzling. Bruxish was like one of my personal MVPs last season from Tag Team. Love that thing. It does have Dazzling, which ignores priority, but I like the fact that you've just diversified your options and trying to make sure that Kilo does not get disrupted. So, big shout out there. Chandelure, I have that in another league. That mod's broken. just it's just broken. There's nothing else that needs to be said. It hits way too strong for its own good. And then you're going over to the fossil side, Goldango, spread, make it rain. It's crazy. Ted, you've already probably spoken to that since you had that on your team last season.
Yep.
Dark Urshifu with the Wicked Blow. Again, Terra types being Dark and Fire. Fire gives it that immunity to being burned as well as a resist from Fairy, which is like basically its kryptonite. And Dark just dials up the damage on those Wicked Blows to make them even more filled with wickedness. And then you have the Talonflame as the speed control equivalent to the Kilowattrel on the Minun side. Fast Tailwind, get these guys moving, get them hitting hard, and ask questions later. So both of these coaches lean very much into their hyper offense modes and have supported them with pretty solid low tier Pokemon. I would say the only mod on the team I don't really, I would say, yeah, I get why it's there, but I don't really love it is the Q and Glowfish. I get that like it's bulky Intimidate because benefits from Eviolite, because Overcool is a thing, and it also supplies both of them I think with a Poison type, which neither of them have. But I may like to see that switched out in the future for maybe a different, better fitting low tier. I don't think either of these two teams are particularly weak to Intimidate, and then you have like really strong physical bonds on both sides of the aisle, so I'm a little surprised by that pick, but they might have just gone for the value of the 2-point tier. Alright, let's move on to this next team. I think it is one you will know very well, Ted. Paldean Conquest! Alright, let's hear about your team. What do you think?
So I'm gonna cover my side first because I have a little bit of a draft story with this one. So initially, I honestly didn't want the Ursa Little Blood Moon. I wanted to pick up Excalibur because I only ever used it once and I never got the chance of using it correctly. And I wanted to draft that hill mode with Excalibur, which would have been nice, I think, on this team, especially on my side. But Dunn recommended me drafting Blood Moon because he didn't want to face it, and he knew the power of what Blood Moon can do in the Masters format. So I ended up getting the Blood Moon first. I think it's an interesting Pokemon. Obviously, having that Mind's Eye ability, which allows it to hit Ghost types with its fighting and normal type stabs, or not stabs, it's normal and fighting type moves, which is really nice. Hitting really strong blood moves into ghost types is really, really strong, I think. Especially on my side, which is relatively weak to ghost, kind of, but I think that's really great. Terracopting Belly Bolt, we ended up picking this. I ended up picking this at the end of the personal picks here. I think with my trigger mode with Dust Noir, and the various other shared Terra Captains and the shared Pokemon, I think it's going to be really great to shine with that. I think flying in water is really good defensively. Flying obviously covers that ground weakness, and then water is really good defensively as always. So I'm excited to use Bully Bolt. Never used it, so might as well try it here. Okidoki again is another Pokemon that I've seen good usage out of it. Guard Dog is really good ability. I don't have a lot of physical attackers, but to deter away those intimidators is really nice. Getting that attack boost with Guard Dog is really, really nice as well. The Spirit tier is a little bit less to be desired, but I have ways of working around that. Can hit really hard. Poison Jab with Toxic Chain is really, really strong. Knockoff, Drain Punch, a lot of good utility, and a lot of good harding moves on Okidoki. Weavile obviously, provides that fake out support. Can also be a good side piece as well with other Pokemon. Has Icy Wind. I believe it also can set up snow with Snowscape as well. So that will definitely come later. So yeah, I like Weavile for that reason. And then obviously Dust Noir having that trick room support is really nice as well. Its stats are really really strong as well. Like I didn't really want to pick Dusclops for where Okidoki was, so picking up the Dust Noir later in the tier 2 slot is really nice. And then Masquerade is a low tier intimidator with Tailwind. Yeah, overall really good utility Pokemon, has Aqua Jet. So yeah, overall I really like my side. I do have a lot of weaknesses that coaches will definitely be able to exploit, but overall, I think the synergy works really well.
Well, I can say that I can agree with a lot of those assessments, and bless your heart for taking one for the team by taking a top tier threat that your own teammates didn't want anyone else to draft. I can't say that that is something I hear very often, but I like that you've attempted to make it work because I think that draft story was really cool. It is a very phenomenally strong Pokemon compared to the other Ursaluna that we saw a few paces ago with the Go-Goats. The fact that Ghost types are not safe in front of this one is painful. Real painful. Means that you're basically forced to use Rock and Steel to resist its very strong normal stat, but guess what common weakness Rock and Steel happen to have?
Ground.
Ground. Right, exactly. Yeah, so you're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't versus this thing. But I do like I like the utility picks you have. I think Dust Noir in particular is a very good steal down in the 2-point tier. I used that mon last generation when we had Dynamax. Woo! Man, that thing, like, you train it right, that thing doesn't die, and it actually packs a punch. Really like that. Really digging the Masquerain pick as well. One of my favorite low tiers down there. Very wide move pool, and whatnot. I will say though that I heard word on the block was that you were gonna draft Regieleki, so I was a little surprised when you drafted Belly Ball. I was like,
No, I didn't. I never thought about Regieleki. I believe it was Dunn who was thinking about drafting Regieleki. I don't know where that came from, but no, I was never gonna draft Regieleki.
I was like, if this man drafts Regieleki with the speed tiers he's already got, like, we're in a lot of trouble. But that being said, I will talk about your partner Dunn's side of the draft. I like it. Terra Captain Hydreigon is pain. Hydreigon is probably like one of the top 5 best mons thanks to this new mechanic because of its unique combination of ability plus its original typing. So fire and poison types with Levitate is pain. It is very difficult to pin that mon down. Excuse me, when you can't hit it reliably for super effective damage. And as a plus side, it hits pretty strong. Then you got the Zapdos and the Conkeldurr, as well as the two more starters. So Dunn's got a little pledge mode going, and then the Quagsire to kind of rounded off. I would say that my favorite pick of this team is the Glastrier. It is very strong with Terra. The fact that it's basically a legendary, and it has the stats to back that up, plus an ability that basically means that every time it gets a KO, it gains an attack boost. Yeah, that plus Terra getting rid of that really poorly defensive ice typing is pain, and I don't look forward to facing that in week number 1. The Ditto is cute though. I'm actually intrigued as to if that was an intentional pick or if that was a panic pick, because I don't think Dunn was quite sure when he drafted it.
I can confirm it was definitely a panic pick.
Okay.
We didn't like anything else in that tier, and he just picked whatever. I mean, it kind of works because like Ditto can go against like those offensive threats like Fluttermane, Dundozogiri, other strong hard hitters, so we can like copy their attack stats and just go wham with it. So we'll see how it goes. If we don't ended up liking it, we'll just trade it before the trade deadline. So we'll see.
See, that's a mindset of a good coach. Even when the panic picks can make sense, you're doing a good job. So shout out to Dunn for the panic pick. But we are gonna move on. We have 4 teams left to go. We're gonna move on to the Colorado Rock Slides. Let's start off talking about this team. I really love Pine Inside. They have some of my favorite Pokemon this generation in the Tornadus. Huge fan of the Typhlosion Hisui, like unbelievably such a great mon. You could tell I'm super biased against ghost types, not at all an accident. But they just have a really nice, well-rounded little Sun mode with the Hisui and Lilligant, the Typhlosion, and the Tornadus. The Slowking as a Terra Captain, I gotta say, I did not see that one coming. That was a very, I think, sharp pick on their part. Grass and Fairy do cover a good chunk of its weak points, while also protecting it from very common anti-setup threats like spores and whatnot. Cyclizar is also another steal in the low tiers. Very fast mon, very supportive mon. So good pick there. Not the biggest fan of Dedenne, but if you really do need an electric type from the low tier, and I guess a fairy type as well, you know, it definitely fits the bill. Has some very good applications with its abilities. And then we go to the puzzle side. I also do like some aspects of this team. I think Rabambi is another really good deal in the low tiers. Wide move pool, very fast, similar to the Cyclizar. Armor Rouge without Indeedee is a very interesting pairing, but I think Armor Rouge gets a lot more room to shine on this team particularly because it is going to be capable of doing more than just spamming Expanding Force. But the coach may decide that they want to throw in Indeedee at some point. It is very much still on the draft board, both of them, as a matter of fact. I will say that the one thing I don't love about the Pulse side is Komodo without Terra seems painful because of how extremely good it is with Terra. But, I mean, I can understand that choice. Terra captains were of a limited point allotment. You only got 12 points, and we had 5 tiers. And Komodo is in tier 5, so that is fairly expensive. To round it out, as far as the shared bonds go, I like the little Anger Point combo with the Frostlass and the Crocodile. This is classic. Both coaches get a mode that other teams have to prep for every week. And then the two Hisuian mons, the Electro and the Cecil, I think are also very good utility picks for both sides. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you.
So you basically covered everything I would have liked to said. I think obviously the main vocal point of the shared Pokemon is definitely that Anger Point strat with Frost Breath. I think is really strong. I think both sides can cover it really well because they both have Tailwind, either priority or a fast Tailwind setter like Rabambi and Jordanus respectively. So I'm excited to see that if they do manage to get it off, and just completely sweep the other side or the opponent's side is going to be really really hard to deal with. Specifically the puzzle side, like you mentioned, like Komodo would have been very, very nice with the Terra typings. Something like a Steel or a Fairy typing would have been nice, but I get the reasoning behind it because having only 12 points to pick with that Terra typing between both sides is kind of difficult because wasting 5 points out of the 12 is really, really hard to swallow. So I get the reasoning behind it, but I think overall by itself is going to be still really strong. Clangorous Soul, getting that Omni boost is going to be really, really hard to deal with if you're not running Mirror or Haze. So yeah, I'm really excited to see that. Klefki, really good support with double screens. Has Sunny Day, Rain Dance as well, so you can boost up that the Armor Rouge with the Armor Cannon under the sun. It's going to be really, really hard to deal with. And then obviously, we mentioned the Tailwind on both sides here with Staraptor and the Rabambi. Both, obviously, like you said, both provide Tailwind. Obviously, we're most likely going to see that more of Rabambi. I think it's really good support. Moonblast, Quiver Dance, Sticky Webs, even if you really want to run those moves there and doubles. And then Charger Bug, I was also considering this Pokemon in my draft originally, but I think it's really good on this team, boosting up those special attacks from Komodo and Armorous with Battery. It's going to be really, really strong, and it's definitely really threatening if put in the right position. So, yeah, excited to see what they do.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think you brought up a good point again about the Komodo. I do think that if there is a way for them as a team, because obviously the points are shared, to reconfigure some of the shared mons to give the Pulsar coach that Terra Captain slot with the Komodo in it, I do think that team gets significantly stronger, or at least significantly more difficult to prep for, in terms of the fact that Komodo just really would go balls to the wall with a good defensive Terra and that stat line in conjunction with the dual screens and the setup moves. And one other thing I would like to see on that side of the draft specifically, I would love to see a good water type, because even when you take into account like some of the good the shared mons, like the Anger Point combo and the Armorers, I think like a good water type maybe could round that out. Maybe Lumineon if it's still on the board. I believe it is, but that is was food for another day. And we're going to move on to the next team, which is going to be the Bulk Up Babies. So, Ted, take it away.
All right. So I'm a big fan of the shared Terra captains. I think Gujo is Steel and Water, although it's not it's a Suin variant. I still think it's still very bulky with that defense stat and its special defense stat. Steel obviously covers that fairy weakness, and Waters again is good paired up with Sap Sipper. So even with the water typing, it's not weak to grass; it's only weak to electric. So I think that's a really good trade-off with that. And then Arcanine with the Terra Normal. Obviously, Terra Normal E-Speed is really spammable with Choice Band, so you have to watch out for that. And then Grass is good defensively as well to stop the ground type attacks and the water type attacks as well. So yeah, all the Terra types make sense. Oranguru and Berserker. I get Oranguru, not so much Berserker. I get that is probably the only fake out option left, other than the minus side does have fake out on the shift tree. However, I'm not a big fan of it because they don't have a steel type on both sides. Not counting the Gudra with Terra Steel, so they can't really use Steely Spirit as much. So that's basically a kind of a wasted ability. But they can run Tough Claws, and that does boost Fake Out and Iron Head and other physical stabs. So yeah, I think it'll be great for what role it provides. And then Oranguru obviously provides that Trick Room option for the minus side specifically with the Enamorous and the Mudsdale. So yeah, really overall really good. And Telepathy is a really good ability, so you can spam that Earthquake with the Mudsdale. So that's one thing players have to watch out for. So going to the Plusle side, Go-Goat, really Goat pick. Obviously, I'm really sad that the Go-Goat team did not pick Go-Goat. But it is what it is with that.
Man. You and me both. I was
yes.
trying so hard to get them to pick the goat.
But I think here it's really good on this squad. Like Sap Sipper again is really good with the Terra Rock, so it is not going to be hit by those grass type attacks. And then Ghost again, like, is really good for that. Both those Rock and Ghost kind of cover each other's weaknesses quite a bit. So yeah, I think it's really good on this team. Lando, I'm not entirely sold on it. I think the Therian form is still better in my opinion, but it does hit hard. It gets Nasty Plot as well now, so it can hit the Earth Powers, Sledge Bombs, Sandseer Storm as well with its new Hisui move that came over this gen. So yeah, I think it's definitely going to hit really hard the Sheer Force Life Orb sets. So yeah, it's like to see that. The Screamtail, I'm not entirely a big fan because I've used it and I haven't had great success with it, but I think it can work here. A strong defensive fairy type is nice. It's always nice to have. Thunderwave, Perish Song, Encore, Disable, which is really annoying. I have a lot of experience with that, but it's generally a really annoying Pokemon to deal with, and you have to bring Taunt against this. So, yeah, overall really strong, bulky fairy typing. Hisuian Samurott, a big fan of this Pokemon as well. Can be decently bulky with the Assault Vest, but it can run other sets like with Life Orb, Choice Scarf, Choice Band. Sting's Edge is really nice for a Dark Spad. You don't really need the spikes up, but it's good for the chip if your other Pokemon need to, KO certain Mons at a certain range. So, yeah, I think Sting's Edge can be really good. But if you don't really want to run that, you can have Knockoff, Aqua Cutter, X Scissor, Sacred Sword, stuff like that. That's getting boosted up by Sharpness. Illumise, also another Pokemon I'm a really big fan of. Having that Praxis channel is really nice. Doesn't have Taunt and other good support moves like its counterpart in the Minun side. However, it does can hit very hard on the special tagging side, so we'll most likely see that from it. And then Ampharos, I think, is a really nice low tier electric type. I don't see too much use out of it, but I think it'll be pretty decent if the matchup calls for a good electric type to come to the field.
But no, that was great. Thanks a lot for that summary. I agree with a lot of those points. I'll just throw in these little two tidbits. True to their name, Bulk Up Babies have drafted, both coaches have drafted a fairly bulky team. A lot of the mons on both sides, the Minor and the Pulse, will have quite high HP stats. Specifically the Screamtail, the Go-Goat as well, I believe Mudsdale and Enamorous all have HP stats literally well over 100. So it's going to be very difficult to chip through those Pokemon while you're taking kind of repeated hits as they are not dying. I also love the Volbeat Illumise pairings. I think the Pranksters enabling the bulky mons are such a great combination because you're allowed to very flexibly get speed control for mons that can operate in fast or slow modes. As far as the Screamtail is concerned, because I actually do think it's interesting to have Screamtail on a team that has a Prankster mon, I think that actually makes the Screamtail a little bit more unpredictable on what it can do outside of like, you know, the regular Encore disable sets that it is very much known for, because you have the Illumise kind of operating in a similar supportive role. You can either bring them interchangeably or you can bring them both and turn Screamtail into a very dangerously offensive threat. So I'm excited to see how that coach decides to manipulate having those two. Cole with Terra is always something that I find interesting. I feel like most coaches is really hit or miss. I feel like I've equally spoken to coaches who have said Cole with Terra sucks, and I've equally spoken to coaches that say Cole with Terra is a godsend. Where are you on that line, actually, Ted?
I think Cole is pretty decent. I don't. It's not. It's definitely not the same as it was in Gen 8 with Dynamax, obviously. But I think with Terra is nice because it covers the weaknesses like grass and fighting. I think grass covers that ground and water weakness, so I think it's okay. I don't think it's not the best. It's not definitely not as at its best as it was in Gen 8, but I think it's still pretty good.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with that. Like, I definitely think it's better than decent. I'll definitely put it that way. It definitely opens up the variety of items it can use now that it can kind of change its typing. The one thing I would say about the Minot team is I would really love to see like an electric mon on that side. I think it's just a nice offensive piece that is missing because that team would have a lot of trouble taking down bulky waters, and the shared mons don't expressly help in that way. Yes, Shiftry is very strong, but you know, in a position where there are even some bulky mons of the water type, or even just bulky water terras themselves that can really take advantage of Shiftry not being able to kind of cut through them fast enough. Yeah, but any final thoughts on the bulk up babies?
No.
All right, now let's go to our second to last team. You'll probably recognize this one as well. Pupa Supremacy. I'm gonna leave it to you to start. I think there are some friends here you'd like to speak about.
Yeah, definitely. So obviously the main point for this team is that Dozogiri, really strong combo, hard to deal with if you don't have Haze, Clear Smog, phase out moves. So overall, really strong pairing. I think both sides obviously cover it pretty well. I think they work well together. And then like the shared Pokemon outside of Tatsugiri, that Flamigo is definitely going to be all those three outside of Wigglytuff. All those three are definitely going to be being seen together. Um, if you manage to get off like the Black Sludge or Toxic Orb strat with Tatsugiri and bring in that Flamigo when Dungeons is alive, boosting up with Co-Star is really dangerous if you can get it off. It's not 100% all the time since it's pretty frail. But if you do manage to get it up, it's definitely going to be really strong. Wigglytuff is an interesting Terra pick. It is good defensively, like Steel and Water are good defensive Terra types. But outside of Frisk, it doesn't really do much. It was kind of my little mini MVP last season for Season 1, but that because I used it in various different ways. But I don't quite get it why it's here, but I can definitely see the reason why on both sides could definitely come.
I can agree with that. Yeah, Dondozo Tatsugiri, our cute little sushi friends combo, and the Flamigo, all provide a very devastating effect to the field with, the commander ability from the Tatsugiri. You'll see the 3 forms there that all boost a different stat when they are fused with Dondozo, and it uses its signature move Order Up. But yeah, it gives Dondozo +2 in every stat except HP, basically making it a pretty unkillable wall that can destroy what's left of your team if you are not well prepared for it. And both coaches get to use that, which means prepping for it will be so much fun. But I also think that one of the worst things you can do when you draft a strong pairing like Dondozo Tatsugiri is draft a weak individual team around it. And I will say that both coaches did not do that at all. The Cerulege, the Rotom Wash, and the Ting Lu on the Minun side are super strong, potent threats that are very bulky and can set up. So even if you're prepared for a setup Dondozo with just like rocking Haze and whatnot, which a lot of water mons tend to be the ones to get Haze, water and some poison mons, you just kind of get obliterated by the Rotom Wash and the Ting Lu in like the late game. Or if they don't bring it, then your Haze tech is kind of useless. Conversely, on the Fossil side, you've just got Chi-Yu with Beads of Ruin and a slew of really strong special attackers and a car. But a slew of strong special attackers like a Spathra that are just going to abuse the Beads of Ruin to get massive numbers on you in terms of damage, and then maybe clean up with Dozo in the back. So it's definitely a well-crafted team. And of course, one member of the Speedbus Supremacy did manage to get their mascot. Shout out to Bread. But we all knew that was going to happen anyway. Any final thoughts on Speedbus Supremacy before we go on to the last team?
No, I think we covered everything with that.
Sounds good to me. So our final team is going to be the Bella Tower Radiant. I'll let you start this one off as well.
Okay. So Iron Bundle really strong. With the Terra types, obviously Ice boosts up its Ice type stats, so like Freeze Dry, Ice Beam, Icy Wind, stuff like that. And then Ghost is good defensively, mostly because it's weak to fighting, so that being immune to fighting types is really nice. And also hitting like other Ghost types as well with the Terraform's Ghost. And then Isugi and Sliggoo, really bulky with Eviolite. I think Water and Fairy are really good defensive types for it. It's very close to Hisuian and Guja to being unkillable, but not quite there yet with the Eviolite, but it's definitely very close with those Terra types. And then the Zapdos and the Fungus. Obviously, Fungus provides that support with Rage Powder, Clear Smog, Spore, Pollen Puff, really similar sets to Amoonguss. However, it doesn't get a lot of good offensive pressure like Amoonguss can if it wanted to. But overall, for a low tier pick for support is really nice. And then Galarian Zapdos is really nice as well. Strong fighting type, which both sides lack, is really nice as well. So having Choice Banded or Choice Scarfs, Brave Birds, Thunderous Kick is really nice. So I think both of the two bottom share picks definitely fit nice on both sides.
Yeah, no, completely agreed. This is actually one of my personal favorite teams in the entire draft, honestly. I think these coaches put together one hell of a squad. And the two sides are so different, which require different threats, but the shared mons just kind of seamlessly flow in there. Like, yeah, the shared Fungus is so interesting because like you've got just first of all, you just got redirection for both of your team, for both you and a teammate. So Rage Powder is something that now every one of these mons can now abuse based on the matchup. And then you've also unlocked Spore as an option that coaches will have to prep for, which is potentially wasting the safety goggles from week to week when the Fungus does not come. Granted, Lady Lilac, who is the Minun coach, does not have a grass type of their own, but it's still something that coaches have to consider is like, do I really want to get put to sleep for like the rest of the match? The Iron Bundle is a great pick. and I hate to admit it because I just genuinely don't like Iron Bundle like at all. I've enjoyed using it on ladder a little bit more, so I'm coming around to it. But man, missing Hydro Pump just sucks straight up.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
pretty sure everybody who uses this mod more frequently has that comment to say. As far as the mine side, I really like the little synergies that are there. Gothitelle enables so much for that team, and then the Terra Captain and the Luxray being able to abuse like Guts, Flame War, Facade is like really cool. You don't see that too often because Ursaluna and Ursaring tend to get like, you know, they get the large amount of the spotlight for using that. The Luxray can do it too. Also, it's like really difficult to debuff the Mine side due to Defiant on the King Gambit, Defiant on the shared Galarian Zapdos, even competitive on Gothitelle. So good luck breaking through that team and trying to stop its damage output. And then on the Pulsar side, you just get roasted by the Sun combos. 2 Paradox Mons over there, Ninetales, which is like my favorite Sunsetter of all time. And then you got the Slowbro just kind of gluing it together for a little bit of a slow mode, as well as the Rotom. I've never even been a fan of Leafeon, but Leafeon feels right at home on this team. Just even as just a raw Chlorophyll sweeper, but since there are so many special offensive threats on the Fossil side, the Leafeon actually gets a chance to shine as a Sun sweeper. So, yeah, well crafted, guys and gals down here. This is a really tough team to break through.
Yeah,
anything else?
Definitely. No, I think we covered everything with that.
Alright, well, with that being said, we're at roughly the hour and a half mark, and we've gotten through all 14 teams / 28 individual drafts. So we're going to move on to the last portion of our PR video. So you've heard what Ted and I and Doc from earlier have had to say about these teams. Now we're going to give you an opportunity to see what fellow coaches have said about these teams. So I asked all of the coaches, one representative per team, to answer 3 different questions. All the answers are anonymous. So I have put together some slides that sort of summarize what some of your fellow coaches think about your drafts. I hope you are ready. So describing another team's draft, what's your favorite part about their drafts? And before we get into the icons, Ted, since you're on call, why don't you talk about another team's draft, if you can remember one off the top of your head?
Actually, let's talk about the Primordial Leviathan since I noticed their logo first. I think overall, like their drafting was really good. Actually, I think it's better if I actually pull up the draft first because otherwise I won't remember the picks that they had.
Sounds
Here.
Add a little background. Here.
So yeah, definitely the team with the sandstorm problem. It's outside of the sandstorm problem. I think their team overall is really great. I think the supporting pieces support well with each other. I think the drafting overall went great. I think like we mentioned before on their side, like the main issue is that sandstorm potential not being utilized quite well. But outside of that, I think that their squad is really nice. I think, like I said, like I think their drafting process definitely went well. Yeah, we'll see how they go during the season.
All right. So these 6 teams here at the bottom. This is kind of how this is going to work. Based on the anonymous comments from your coaches, these 6 teams were the ones that were most mentioned by the coaches. I'm not going with frequency per se, but for the most part, there were only 5 real teams that were mentioned. But Bella Tower Radiance actually was mentioned about 2 or 3 times by different coaches, so that's why I put their logo twice. But it seems like Bella Tower Radiance, the Real Paradox, Primordial Leviathans, Scuba Supremacy, and the Chillin' Boys are some of the hot teams on the block. A lot of people seeming to like your drafts, so well done, guys. I put in honorary mention. This is going to be a team that was not mentioned in DM, so I guess it's really more of my own personal vote. I'm a big fan of the Let's Go team. I think that pledge stuff is just, I really can't wait to see that just absolutely unlocked at like full potential. I'm so excited for that. But that's enough from me. Let's see what your actual coaches said. Ted, feel free to read some of these out.
Okay. So the real paradox featuring their team is is so wait what does that say? It's so bulky. Certainly Mario's team with Iron Hands, Milotic, and Little Ninetales. How do you break that? And the other side is the same, just to a lesser degree, going to be a hard team to play against. Uh, Primordial Titans, Sand. I love their 2-point mons the most. The team I would describe in one word is People Supremacy, and that would be that would be pain. This is the last one. So, People's Supremacy, broken. The Dongiri in a draft league is stupid. And then they add Flamigo, so we have to build against the co-star Dongiri. They are shared mons. We stupidly we stupidly I can't read that word because like it's so on the text there.
Because we're stupidly guilty to let it happen, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. And Bellatar Radiant synergizes so many sneaky techs that are built into a solid core.
Alright, well, you've got a good taste of what your fellow coaches think of some of those teams that have been described. Let's move on to question number 2. So, this one is, which other team would you say is your rival? Ted, look at the slide and tell me if you notice a pattern.
Definitely the Chillin' Boys, mentioned 3 times or more.
Yeah, if you're listening, Chillin' Boys, just know you got some rivalries out there. A lot of people coming for you guys. You might also notice that there is a lone Azumarill there, which is not on any team, but you'll see on the next slide there was a specific coach that has the Azumarill as their as a profile picture that was highlighted. He was the only person that was shouted out. In addition to the Chillin' Boys and that one coach, there was the Real Paradox as someone's rival, and even our own Secrets of the Snormagus. I cannot imagine who our rival might be. Honorary mention is going to go to the Galarians, and for me, I know the coaches of that team very well. In fact, they were coaches I both fought and defeated and also rematched and similarly lost to in my very first VGC draft league. So we kind of go way back. And the Galarian logo reminds me of joining that division, the Galar division, back in the UGA server. So I'm super excited to face them this season. And let's go to what the coaches actually had to say about who is their real rival. Alright, Ted.
Okay, so Snormagus for stealing our E-Terrain setter XD. My biggest rival is Ronan. I don't trust him. Also, he's very mean. That's very hateful. I'm sorry to hear that. Some of our coaching staff still have a score to settle with Sick. Okay, I can get behind that. Did the Chillin' Boys snipe Okay, so the Chillin' Boys sniped us multiple times, and we are going to do our best to make them pay. Okay. Haldean Conquest mod battles. Whoever wins this match will be bragging in mod chat until the end of time. Okay.
Well,
I can probably guess who that is, but for now, that's an interesting take.
Seems like you got some rivals. I don't know who's upset with us for stealing our Easter eggs that are like, you should have drafted Vicurchin earlier, man. That mod was very good in the low tiers as far as utility and stat lines go. We do love a min-max. And I have an electric terrain mode too, thank you very much. Yes, the biggest rival is Ronan. I will say that I do think that was said in jest, so because we are not mean-spirited over at TGR. But you know,
definitely not.
We'll see. We'll see. Just we're stirring the pot a little bit. We want to have a good healthy season, and a little bit of drama for the storylines. All right, so I got one last question that I did ask the coaches, and we're gonna go to it now. So last question is, which team do you think is best positioned with the drafts as they are right now to go straight to playoffs? And of course, you are allowed to say your own team. So each one of these teams here at the bottom, I will say, was only mentioned once. So the Real Paradox, the Scuba Supremacy, there was one team here that was mentioned more than once. But the Real Paradox, Scuba Supremacy, Greenwich Galarians, Belltower Radiance, Secret of the Snormagius, Bulk Up Babies were all mentioned by coaches as teams that, with their drafts right now, today, as in this video, or as of this video, going straight to playoffs. My honorary mention is to the Mario and Luigi because Mouse Ape is obnoxious and really good, and Walking Wake is honestly low-key kind of really busted if it's played correctly. So that's my own personal take. Let's see what the coaches said.
All right. So we see double Greenwich Galarians. Let me go. So teams to playoffs would be Secrets of Secrets of I don't know why it says Big Magus and this should be Storming. It is what it is with that. Let's see. Terra D Knight and Valiant are very scary threats. Bulk Up Babies, both coaches have a really well-rounded team. Slow but bulky, and also I love the prankster Volby Illumise pick. Real Paradox, the team is very diverse and extremely strong. Spook of Supremacy, as much as I avoid like the reign of Spupa to end, you gotta respect the little guy, even with the rest of the team being dead weight. I can't help but feel he could go all the way, but seriously, we would be more than happy to assure you of the Radiance intentions of renewed seasonal dominance. You can expect the season to be just another chapter in the annuals of the Bell Tower dominance.
Yeah, we have some very strong opinions about teams that are already well positioned to go to playoffs, including a lot of people having faith in the reigning champions, the Greenwich Galarians. So that's why you see them up there twice. Yeah, I would agree, at least with the, speaking for my own team, which was mentioned, I do agree that Terra D Knight and Valiant are very scary threats, so definitely look out for those. And yeah, this is the end of what your coaches think of your team. I do hope you have enjoyed seeing what some of your fellow draftmates have said behind the scenes. And with that, that is gonna just about end the video. Sorry I didn't think of the music from earlier, but I hope you enjoyed that little bit during that segment. Ted, any final words to close us out?
I just wish everybody luck. I think this season is definitely more competitive than last season, obviously. And as usual, like it's gonna be definitely a fight to the finish. Everybody has to do their best, either scratch their way, claw their way, whatever it is to get to playoffs. We'll everybody, or the teams that will get there will be there. So yeah, I just wish everybody luck, and we'll just see what happens during the season.
All right, thank you for that warm message, Ted. I also echo those same sentiments. Get hyped for a great season, you guys. It's gonna be amazing. And just because your team was not mentioned on this video, do not take it any sort of way. These are all our opinions. We're just trying to build up some hype and conversation over this season. Literally everybody is a serious threat, so come on out and battle. And with that, I want to also thank Ted for donating his time to come out and be with me, and also Doc from earlier, even though he's not on the call anymore. And yeah, from me to you guys, and on behalf of all the other TGR mods, thank you guys for tuning into this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more epic content from the game room, and we will see you all later. GLHF.
Yeah.